Hey everybody, welcome to the panel discussion Exec Corner, Dealmakers, Deciders, Disruptors. My name is Rocky Harris and I'm a TV business reporter at TheWrap. And I'm super excited to be speaking to these executive women. Please give them another round of applause. We're gonna be talking about so many different topics, mentorship, navigating power structures, and so much more. But before we begin, we're gonna go ahead and introduce our panel, starting from the end.
Hi everyone, my name is Aisha Summers-Burke, and I'm head of BET Studios.
Hi everybody, I'm Liz Wright. I'm the EVP CFO of Paramount Streaming, also the direct-to-consumer segment. As the CFO, I'm responsible for Paramount Plus, Pluto TV, BET Plus, and Showtime.
Let's go!
Hi everyone, I'm Jackie Hayes. I'm the Executive Vice President and General Counsel of Warner Brothers Discovery Studio and Networks Group. And that includes Warner Brothers Pictures, Warner Brothers Television, HBO programming, Discovery programming, and the TurnerNets programming.
Hi, I'm Melody Hildebrandt, EVP of Engineering at Fox. I'm our Chief Information Security Officer and co-founded our Web3 crypto business unit, Blockchain Creative Labs.
Hi everyone, I'm Kayleen Walters. I am General Manager and Head of Franchise Development for the video game Minecraft. Greetings everyone. I'm in such esteemed company. My name is Rawa Gabraab and I am the EVP and Chief Ethics and Legal Compliance Officer at Lionsgate Entertainment. I oversee the data privacy compliance and employment functions at the studio.
Come on. Yes. All right, as you guys know and have just heard, all of you women have reached the C-suite level of these massive companies and brands. What did it feel like to take up that space? Okay, what did it feel like to take up that space, and what were the goals that you had for your companies when you took that position? Starting with Kayleen.
Well, I work for a video game, so I would say taking up that space is super fun. And I had to learn how to play a video game too, which was new. I would say my goals for the company and for me joining the company were really about generating a whole lot of energy around what we could do with this game and how we could turn it into an entertainment brand. And so really painting a vision that the team had never thought of before, and really then getting them on board with that vision and how to accomplish it.
Absolutely.
I guess, for me, as I came into the role, it was really this transition from kind of being the operator, competent, young whippersnapper who could, execute on someone else's strategy, to kind of actually being responsible for coming up with a vision and setting kind of what, a goal that I thought we should go after, which in the case of kind of Web3 and crypto was thinking about democratizing content financing and distribution. So that was the big transition for me. It's you're no longer just someone who can be trusted to execute someone else's vision, but you can actually be the one to set that vision.
Absolutely.
For me, I've been at Warner Brothers, next January it'll be 25 years.
Come on.
And next year, Warner Brothers will be celebrating its centennial, 100 years. And so when I was appointed to this role of the general counsel, I'm the first woman general counsel and the first person of color.
Wow.
So that's really meaningful, and a lot of pressure, feels like. But it's good, it's great. And we're charged with, we're in a post-merger situation, a lot of you know that, with Discovery. And so Warner Brothers Discovery is coming together now as a single company, and that's very challenging to integrate two major companies, two very different companies, together into one. So that's sort of the focus, is sort of getting our ducks lined up and all rowing in the same direction.
For sure.
So I've actually been at Paramount, previously CBS, for a long time, going on almost 16 years. Kind of went from being a doer to a manager and kind of having an executive role, and it definitely takes a pretty big mind shift change to evolve to that role. We're definitely in a lot of transition period. Viacom and CBS merged, which was a lot, and very in hyper growth mode. So that's been in finance in particular, you're kind of focused on short and long-term goals, so there's been a lot of competing priorities and making sure we manage through that.
So I'd say probably similar to what other women have said up here. It was a lot of pressure. And on a personal note, for me at the time, I'd been at Warner Brothers for over a decade, and then I was also kind of in the doer position, and then now turned into more of the thinking of the vision and what the new studio would be. It was a brand new studio, and at the time, I just become a brand new mother to twins. And so I felt like at that moment, it was such an empowering kind of place to be that I wanted to make sure one of the big goals was that not only that my children would be growing up in a system where they saw people like myself everywhere, but that also anybody that was working with BET Studios also felt like they were part of the vision, that it wasn't just my vision, that it was a collective vision for all of us.
Absolutely.
Well, my goal was to really remind myself that I was supposed to be there. You know, I was appointed as the company's first chief ethics and legal compliance officer, and I guess I was put into the role for a reason. And I have a wonderful support system at Lionsgate. I've been there 8.5 years. It's where I started my in-house career. And I started out as an employment lawyer and then moved to take over, data privacy and compliance as well. And so I had to just take it a day at a time and realize that I wasn't going to be an expert on everything day one, and try to remind myself, okay, you're learning. You have people who trust your judgment. That's why you're here. And again, just try to work with my internal resources, my external resources to make sure I meet the challenges.
Absolutely. And let's talk about unpacking, feeling like you deserve to be in a space. Now, if you guys do not know, 75% of female executives across industries struggle with imposter syndrome. And if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's this feeling as if you don't belong somewhere, even though you're fully equipped to be there, you're totally qualified, but there's something that's making you feel like you don't deserve that seat. Now, if you're a woman, that may be because you're in a male-dominated space, or if you're a woman of color, you were never offered that seat in the first place. So what does it feel like for any of you, to go through imposter syndrome, if you did, and how did you overcome it? And I'm going to throw that one to Elizabeth.
I'm definitely of the mindset that your work speaks for itself, and you deserve to be in a certain role. You wouldn't have gotten into that role if you didn't prove yourself. Especially a lot of women I know are in roles where they might be one of the only females in a C-suite, and I think that definitely can be intimidating at times. And I think it's a matter of reminding yourself that you wouldn't have been entrusted into that role if you didn't put all the work in and prove yourself. So you kind of have to not have that self-doubt. It's very hard. I think especially when you're kind of growing in your career, you kind of always have that self-doubt and are thinking about that, but you kind of have to remember to stay strong and remind yourself why you're there.
Absolutely. And I'm going to jump to Rara and Aisha. You guys have, during our prep call, they mentioned that they met each other 8 years prior to this moment at an event that Aisha had created where industry professionals could
Closer
network.
to 10.
Okay.
No big
Listen.
deal. Minor detail.
But they had met each other at this space that Aisha had created for people in the industry to network and connect. Do you feel like that, Aisha, led you into the type of work that you do at BET Studios?
I do. I think that it was a brunch that I had started over a decade ago, I think, and it was a time where I was working in a job where I saw very few women of color, and I thought to myself, this can't be real. There has to be other women of color around in the business, and the fact that I didn't know or wasn't able to reach out or make a phone call was worrisome to me. So two other women, 3 of us got together and we said we should host a brunch. We knew a couple of people, so if I know a couple of people, she knows a couple of people, and then she knew a couple of people, let's just invite, at that time, I think it was like less than 10 women together, so we all knew each other. We knew where we worked, we knew what we were all doing, kind of what the goals were, but we also wanted to know about personal lives. Like, I think at the brunch, we didn't really talk about work. We talked about what people want to do on the weekends, where they're from, like what they want to do, kind of outside of this job. And then I think by the end, I think we did it for maybe 2 or 3 years, there was like 60 women there. Mm-hmm. And it was so empowering to see all of these women of color, all working in television, all across different platforms. And so I think for me, that was a really turning point of trying to keep that always in some form of what I was doing at my career. So.
And I have to give it up to Aisha because I was a +1 to several of her brunches, and she can cook.
But
Barely.
but I remember, I look back on that time so fondly. This was like 10 years ago, right? And we're all young women in the industry. We all had different places we wanted to be: writers, producers, directors, executives, lawyers. And I knew none of these women. I just walked into her house like, hey, I'm here for the brunch, and came a few more times, and I stayed in touch with some, not with others. And then 10 years pass, and we're on this prep call, and I'm like, Aisha looks really. It's Aisha from the brunch, and so that's what it was. And I went back in my emails and I thought, oh my gosh, this woman she brought together so many women over the years, and we're all in really cool places in our career. It's really wonderful to look back on that time, and it's a reminder that it's very important to connect and network, if you will, with people who are coming up with you. If people stick with it long enough, you'll see them throughout the industry, and I'm sure that's the experience that many of you have experienced as well. And I see that with many of the people that I met early on in my career. Before I even was in entertainment, I thought, one day I'd like to be a lawyer in entertainment. Don't know exactly how that's going to work, but I'll figure it out. Continued meeting people and meeting them and talking about things organically, what they were interested in, not just what can you do for me, how can you help me, and it's those relationships that have been the most rewarding and have really helped me the most in my career. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And I want to, just for the rest of you too, do you feel like it's better to work horizontally rather than vertically when you're trying to achieve a goal? And I'll give that to Melody.
I mean, I share the kind of non-transactional view, which I think is what you're pointing to there. It's not like at this point in time, this is someone who can do something for me today, right? There's more of kind of, you're building kind of a set of relationships, and it's not transactional. I mean, my first got pulled into Fox, the way I got into entertainment at all, and I was in tech in New York, was someone who called me after meeting me 5 years earlier. And it was my former boss, not my boss, my current boss, who called me and was like, I think you might be interested for this role. I'm like, I'm totally unqualified for this role, you insane. But I kind of took a chance on me, and I made this big leap, and it was like literally a kind of chance conversation from 5 years earlier, right? But I thought he was a really interesting person, and clearly he remembered me from 5 years ago, but there was nothing I was asking for at that time. So I think that's kind of like the long view, or it's either whether they're peers or your peer level or people that you meet along the way of your career, to not look at it as a transactional relationship.
Absolutely. And let's talk transactional relationships. Okay, now when it comes to networking, it's tricky these days. It's almost like mental gymnastics, where you're like, I want to be passionate and show you that I'm passionate, but I don't want to be too pushy to where I scare you off. What advice would you guys give to people who are wanting to build authentic, organic relationships and show someone that you're passionate about the job, but like maybe I'm not ready yet, but like maybe pull me along just to show me the guide to get there? Jackie, I'll throw that to you.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's one thing. I don't believe in having a lot of regrets, but one of the things I somewhat regret is I did not spend enough time and energy on that earlier in my career, because I was just so busy grinding, getting the work done. I was like, I don't have time to go to this dinner. I don't have time to, and so I think it's really, really important to make that time. And I exactly to the point that was already made. I don't think it needs to be transactional. I think it's about reaching out, and I think in some ways, as oppressive as the Zoom culture that we've all been living in for the last couple of years, just in some ways that's actually a really good tool for this, because it's not the same kind of major commitment that you're asking from somebody to sort of say, hey, can you spend just 15, 20 minutes with me? Tell me what you do. People love to talk about themselves. If you just sort of, just admit, like, you're just interested in learning about more about the business, you express curiosity and genuine interest, as you said, and really be authentic about that. People are generally very happy to tell you about what they do and share insights. And I think it's super, super important to do that.
I'll also add that horizontal connecting doesn't ever stop. Like at whatever level you're at, keep doing it, and you and I were talking before, it's about making a connection. So rather like, this is everything I want to do. How about you? How'd you get there? Like, finding that personal connection makes you so much more memorable. So really, like, thinking about it as, you're somebody I want to be a friend with. Like, what would we be friends about, kind of thing, is really helpful in growing.
I think it's also great just in terms of actually getting work done too, just because a lot of times, you may be, there are a lot of stakeholders involved, different stakeholders in companies, and it's really important to sort of be able to collaborate across departments, across groups, across disciplines, to be able to build coalitions, build, collaboration. And a lot of times that is best done at a horizontal level. You just sort of say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. How would this impact you? What do you think about this? And you can really build and I think more easily accomplish goals if you get good at that, whether it's networking, friendship, or just as a general work habit.
Yeah, for sure.
And if I could add a couple of things, I think it's also important to continue networking with people at all levels, particularly at the junior level for executives, because once you get to a certain level, you're not seeing everything in the way that you once did, and that's why it's great when I go out, for lunch with assistants or coordinators. Tell me, what's going on? What are you guys doing? What's happening? Tell me what you're seeing, because that helps me do my job better. Where are my blind spots? How can I be a better service to you and to the organization? And then the second thing is, I think it's important to remember that even in networking, a space where folks think is very communal and everybody's very open, there is rejection. And the sooner that you accept that, the better. There are so many people I reached out to that never reached back. And what I am really proud of myself for is that I didn't take it personal. I know people are busy. People have a lot going on. Maybe they're not interested. And that it didn't really deter me. But I also love meeting people, and I'm an extrovert. So I think that has also, keep that in mind. And I know that that's not the same for everybody. So when you're trying to meet with people and you're just not hearing from the folks that you want to hear from, move on. Go to the next person, next thing, and you'll ultimately connect with the people who you're supposed to connect with.
Absolutely. And I'll say most of the time in the industry, you're going to get a lot of no's until you get that final yes and you're like, wow, thank you. I feel, affirmed. This is a shot, you guys are all executive women, and when you get to that, that height in your career, you have to make executive decisions in your life that will guide you to that. What decisions did you have to make for yourself to protect yourself in that journey to being great and to where you are right now? And I'll give that one to Elizabeth. Whether that be, hey, look, I can't hang out no more on the late nights, my weekdays are for me, and that's something that I did for myself. A lot of my friends are like, Raquel, you don't want to come out, to happy hour? And I'm like, I got this article, girl. Yeah. But what decisions did you have to make for yourself in order to get to where you wanted to be?
Yeah, I think it's, in a lot of different ways, balance is really, I think, super important as you think about your professional and personal life. It's, I'm very much a type A personality and driven, and, checklists all the way through, and people on my team will kind of laugh about that. That's like who I am. And I think you got to kind of have that balance of understanding that some people have other priorities and competing priorities, so you got to kind of understand who you're working with and making sure that you're kind of looking at that holistically is always really important to me.
For sure. Aisha?
I think one of the things for me that I thought about is that, as we all, I'm sure, were grinding, and it was such a thing about going out for drinks and dinners and meeting whoever you could and reading all the scripts and all that, at some point I wanted a personal life. And wanted a family. And I think what I had to say is, to your point, it's just balance. And how do I protect my personal space? And one of the things I said is I also want to do things for myself. I want to go on vacation. I want to be able to go, on a walk or to the beach, because we work in a creative space. So if I'm just sitting at home reading and doing nothing, how am I going to be creative? So I wanted to make sure that I had space and time for myself to actually be creative with all of the producers and the writers and directors that I'm working with. And I didn't want to just be somebody that was constantly just in the book or in the script. So that was something I did.
Absolutely. Oh, I was going to say, Jackie, you got something to add?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
okay.
no, I was just going to say, I think it's really, and it took me a frightfully long time to learn this, but I think at a certain point, you just have to accept that. I think if we're here, and I'm sure most people in this room, very type A, perfectionist people, have to get everything done exactly the way you want to get it done. And at a certain point, I think you just have to give yourself permission to not be perfect, right? Like, there are going to be days where I'm just not a very good mom. There are going to be days where I'm just not a very good executive. You know what I mean? And I just have to accept that. I do the best I can. The idea that you can have it all, I think, is insane, and you can have it all. I don't think you can do everything as well as you want to do, and I think it puts way too much pressure on us as people to think, oh yes, I can be an executive and a parent and on the school board and bring brownies and whatever. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. You can't do it all, and I think you just have to accept that and just say, look, today I've got to be in this meeting. I got to be on, and I'm sorry, 10-year-old daughter, if I'm not going to be able to make your brownies. Get your dad to make your brownies,
Okay. Hey. Kayleen or Melody, let me know if you have. Okay. Moving on to navigating power structures. When did you know to lean into your power as an executive? I think that that's something that I struggle with sometimes too, even though I keep, teetering up the ladder of power that I get with each role. But how do you balance, when to lean into your power and say, no, I don't like that, especially like with this panel is called Disruptors or Dealmakers Disruptors. When did you know how to be a disruptor for the benefit of progressive change?
I told a story about how I kind of ended up in Hollywood, just in this kind of tech role. And for me, I think my more recent venture, which is, I really kind of wanted to step into more of like a business role, not feel like I was in this silo of, just a technical person who could stay in my swim lane, Mm-hmm. I really thought I had something to offer on the business side. And I think the most recent time where I really felt like I kind of stepped into that was like, when do you really take your shot? Mm-hmm. I think it's like important to think about. And for me, it was this moment where I was kind of interested in Web3. I learned about this other guy who was interested in Web3. He was the CEO of the animation studio. I didn't know him. We were kind of connected, and he decided he was going to make a pitch to our boss, Lachlan Murdoch, about how Fox should get into Web3. I learned the meeting was happening. I stood outside the meeting door, and I was like, can I sit in this meeting? And you don't normally ask to go into those kinds of meetings, but I was like, this is a meeting like I deserve to be in. And I talked to the guy beforehand, so it wasn't like super awkward. But he didn't know I was going to ask that. But I knew he liked me, and he thought that I had something interesting to offer. And like walking out of that, he's like, we should actually just be partners in this. Let's co-found this together. Right, and that was a case where it's like asking to be a seat at the table, and that's the kind of meeting you can't like be silent because you can't ask to go to a meeting and then be a fly on the wall. Like you have to contribute, and then to walk out of there and be like, right now I'm co-founder, and that's what I'm doing now. So
yes. All right. Okay. Do all of you guys have mentors? Or you guys all have mentors? Okay. What has been the benefit of that? And do you guys mentor someone else? I'll give that to, yes.
I've had different mentors over the years, some with more success. What I've realized is if you have a mentor, you have to be vulnerable enough to admit what you don't know. And that's a big thing. And it actually goes with the imposter syndrome too. Like if you can be vulnerable enough to admit to somebody what you don't know, then they can help you figure it out. Or you get the people around you who are smarter than you who can help you figure it out. So that's been helpful for me on the mentor front. And I have also mentored people over the years. And it's been interesting because it goes to what's that connection you can make with them. And it's always good. But what I've found is you can have like even micro mentorships too. Like you don't have to have long-running, long-standing mentorships, but just being open to being able to help somebody in a situation or provide good advice or suggest a different thing is something that can be super valuable, and it doesn't have to be an official mentorship relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
I have mentors, but I also have sponsors.
Come on.
Internal to the organization. And I would not be where I am in my career today if it was not for the support and the sponsorship and the mentorship of my CHRO, our COO, the support of our executive team. They saw something in me and they just let me run with it. And I'm so grateful to them for that. You just kind of, you can't even pay for that type of support. And, I want to be able to provide those opportunities to the people, kind of coming up, and thankfully a lot of people actually reach out to me. So, and I love hanging out. So, so there are many relationships with people, young, more junior lawyers, or people not even in the legal space, but in entertainment. They just want to kind of talk about what it's like to be in a studio, or what it's like to deal with a certain situation being the only woman in the room. Am I going to come off this way? How do I handle this? I'll try to offer my perspective as best I can, but also remind people that my situation is my situation, your situation is your situation. And also, I don't have the answers. Okay. I just have my experience. So, let me offer that there. But I think it's really critical not only to have mentors, but sponsors. And I cannot overstate the importance of that.
I love that. My last question as we wrap is, what does it mean to you to be a power woman? We'll start on the end with Aisha.
Woo! What does it mean to me to be a power woman? It truly probably means to me responsibility. There's just a responsibility to, when you're in this seat, to make sure that you can get as many other people in this position, that you bring others along, that you support other women, that you support everybody in terms of not just me. It's not just about me. So I feel this incredible, just honestly, responsibility to do the best job that I can. Again, like Jackie said, I'm not perfect. I'm not always going to get it right, but I want to do everything that I can to make sure that whatever I'm putting out there, that is something that I believe in. So it's just, it's a big responsibility.
Yes.
To me, I think it's a lot about collaboration and really working together. I think, being a female, you have that kind of natural tendency to kind of get everybody together and making sure everybody's voices are heard. And that's, definitely a lot of my personality, but it's really helped me, I think, in my career to cross-collaborate with other executives, but even understanding what everybody's opinion is so everybody's voice is heard, because I think you're only as good as the team is, and that's really been my mindset as I've kind of grown up in my career.
To me, it's about two things. It's confidence and courage. I think you have to believe in yourself and know that it's okay if you don't know the answers. It's okay to ask a question. There's nothing wrong with asking a question. There's no weakness in asking a question. Just be confident in yourself and know that you are, if, like somebody said here, you're there because you deserve to be there. And just knowing that and sitting in that and owning it, I think is one of the most empowering things that anybody can do. It's not easy, but it's something you absolutely have to do.
For sure.
Well, I love that. Totally agree with that one. I think about vision. Just like really, it's also responsibility, but it's setting a course. And so, like, I think in the seat, it's not enough to follow others. Like, you really have to be willing to be the first person to say something or to disagree or to kind of set your own path or the organization's path.
For sure.
I think it's about generating energy, whether it be inspirational energy or courage, but really creating energy in the room that can drive your product or people forward, whether it be through their careers or through friendships, but the ability to just generate energy and direct it, I think, is really important.
For sure.
I would say maintaining my integrity and staying true to my personal core values while trying to be the best colleague, executive, dog mom, daughter, sister, friend that I can be.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Power Women. This has been an amazing chat. Yes, roll it up, the applause.